What is going on, everybody? I hope everybody's enjoying their week. If this is your first time to my channel, I want to welcome you all. Please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification. That way you don't miss content when I drop it. And I want to welcome you all. My name is Black Appealing the Apple Guy. And today I'm going to be doing a desk tour of my new setup. Now, for those of you that are new to my channel may not know, I actually did a previous video about 2 years ago, just kind of showing how I did my YouTube videos in terms of what I use for my editing machine, which at the time was an iMac, and kind of how I had everything placed that was a little bit easier for me to grab and whatnot. And well, today I no longer actually have that iMac. I actually ditched that a couple of weeks ago. So if you're not familiar with that, I actually built my first PC, which I have a link. I have a video description of those up in the corner over here. I decided to kind of build my first PC, and well, I'll just kind of recap as to why I'm doing this. The reason why I decided to build my first PC was, one, it's actually cheaper than kind of going out and buying a new machine and then consistently having to upgrade that machine every time you need to kind of do something new. So basically for me, for instance, I shoot all my videos in 4K. So shooting stuff in 4K requires, I wouldn't say it requires mostly of a dedicated graphics card, although technically you can do 4K and edit it with an integrated graphics card on a machine. It's not going to be the most pleasant way of doing it. Not to mention that usually when you're running certain video editing programs, they do require at least 16 gigs of RAM, although they'll recommend 8 gigs as kind of a recommendation, but it's really best just to run 16 gigs of RAM just to kind of run the program smoothly. Since I run Adobe Premiere, everyone who runs Adobe knows that Adobe is, a rather RAM-hungry program. So when I had my iMac, which was a mid-2017 iMac before they did a new refresh of the 2020 models, I had 8 gigs of RAM and a dedicated graphics card, and it was working for a bit, but my program, since like I said, I'm running Adobe, it's kind of difficult to run Adobe shooting 4K and editing 4K with only 8 gigs of RAM. And well, in order for me to actually upgrade my iMac to at least the 16 gig model, or to add 16 more gigs of RAM to a newer model, it would have been a lot more for me just to do that versus me just simply selling it, using the money and buying PC parts. So what I did was I sold my iMac and built a PC. So again, like I said, if you're not familiar with that video, or if you haven't seen that video, I have those up in the cards over here. So basically what I'm doing with this video is I'm kind of doing a retour of my new setup now. So this is completely different than what I had that I filmed about 2 years ago. So we're gonna go and I'm just gonna show you, how I have it set up and what's new versus what I don't have new. And I'm gonna run through that tour now. Now this is my current desk. So for those of you who have watched my previous video that I did, this is the same desk as what I had previously in all my other videos. This is literally everything I do for my video editing, everything that I have is on the same desk. Now, I am planning on later on, before the end of the year, actually going full gaming desk mode once I get everything kind of set up. Because currently right now, this is how I have it set up right now. So I probably will keep it like this, probably just until I either get tired of looking at this or until I decide what I'm going to do in gaming desk setup itself. So in terms of how I do my video editing, this is pretty much how I have it before. So in my last video, I had my iMac here, and I had my HomePod, and that was literally what I had. And then I still have this as my monitor setup. So this is a monitor stand that I would use on my iMac because it's a 21-incher. So I have it sit too low. It's not really a perfect eye height for me. So with this monitor stand, I simply would just raise it up on that, and that usually worked well for me because it's at eye level, so it makes it easier for me to see everything without having to strain my eye. And I'll have a link in the description for most of these. Most of these you can't get anymore because I've had these for quite a while, such as this desk. You can't really get this desk anymore because I got it at Office Max, and they don't make this desk anymore. But in terms of the monitor stand, I got this off Amazon that you can still buy. So as I'm talking about this, I will have links for the description for the majority of this as it goes along. So first we're going to start off with the monitor. So this is my monitor now that I use. This is an LG 27-inch 2540 by 1440, a 144 megahertz refresh rate with a 1 millisecond response time. So this is basically just a 2K machine, a 2K monitor. Now the reason why I went with 2K instead of a 4K monitor was one, price. This was $337 or $338, and typical 4K monitors can run about $500 to $600, which I thought was a little bit too expensive, especially for just for a monitor, which like I said, I had a 4K iMac, which I loved, and it was, picture-wise and color-wise, it was great. But from what I've been reading and doing a lot of my research, 4K or 2K monitors is pretty much the sweet spot for gamers and creators alike. So this is what I went with. This is again, an LG 27, I believe it's a GL83A model. Now this model is not to be confused with the other model, because they have two different models, there's the A and there's the B. One's a nano monitor. This one's just a regular 2K monitor. So the unique thing about this is this can do something that my iMac couldn't do. And typically most monitors that you buy, you really don't really see this until you get to the much higher end models. And even then, even certain price points, they still don't really have this feature. But this monitor is capable of pivoting at 90 degrees. So I'll show you what I mean by that. So all I have to do is lift, then just both hands. Now usually sometimes if you don't lift it high enough, it does tend to hit the feet. So you want to make sure you get a decent height. Then you just simply pivot sideways. And that's it. Now, I'm sorry about doing it slick, because I have actually got my cord management kind of set up on this. So the way I'm doing it now is kind of stretching the cords, but this is a 90 degree pivotal monitor. Now, I'm not exactly sure why I would use it in terms of a 90 degree angle. From what I've been understanding, it's mostly going to be for like people who are into stocks and, things of that nature. That's something I normally do when I'm doing that. So although I have tried using it in a 90 degree angle when I'm like looking at like YouTube videos or just, browsing the web, and it's not really the most useful when it comes to that. But in terms of just that being a pretty cool accessory or an option, it's not bad. And it is wall mountable. This is a VESA compliant mount, which means that if I wanted to get like a monitor stand for this, I can just simply stick the stand on the side and then just mount this onto that. And if I don't want to, I can either move it to the side or not. But I don't really want to do that because I don't really have the space to do that, as my desk is not deep enough for me to have that type of an option. But that is what this monitor is capable of doing. So it's pretty cool. When I actually read and bought this, I didn't really know it did that until I was looking through the manual, and I saw that and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Let me try that out. And so, yeah, I did. So that is my monitor. Again, this is an LG I think it's a GL83A 144 hertz 2K monitor. Now, keyboard wise, I got rid of everything that had Apple, so I don't really have any Apple keyboards. I actually bought this keyboard from a website called Keymove. Now, this is a mechanical keyboard, so it gets all that mechanical sounds and whatnot. But the cool thing about this is that it is also RGB. It's also Bluetooth, and it is also wireless. But since I have it connected to my PC, I just normally just keep it plugged in. And not to mention that my PC, it does not have a wireless card plugged into it. So this is always going to be plugged into my PC, and it's RGB, which means I can change the colors on this at any time I want. But since I love green, it's like my favorite color. As you can see from the back, my PC's flashing green, my keyboard is green. So this is from Keymove. I believe this is called the DK61. Not to be confused, there's two different versions. This is a Pro version, and then there's this version. The one that I bought, I thought was the Pro version. This one is not. But as you can see from the back, it is known as the DK61. So I'll have a link in the description on this if this is something that you like. You simply, if you want to change the color on this, all you have to do is download a program, which you can download from the website, and it allows you to kind of customize this thing pretty much in any way you want. So if you want certain buttons to be like media only and not numbers. You simply just go into the program and then swap that to media. If you wanted to, do different color designs, you can go into the program and make it do that. It's pretty cool. It's not something I prefer when it comes to my keyboard. I prefer just solid colors because that's just typically like how I have to do it. And then next up we come to my mouse. This is my Corsair, I believe it's an M85 gaming mouse, and just like the key move keyboard, this too is also customizable with a app that you download or a program that you download, and you can kind of customize it into any colors that you want. Like I said before, green is my favorite color, so everything you'll see on here will be green. So I can even customize a little bit of light there by pressing on that. See how it turns into white, turns into red. So let me zoom in a little. So as you can see, red turns into white, turns into green, turns into kind of a funky pink lavender, back into a blue, and then that's it. So the up and down buttons also can be used to change the color of the mouse. So like I said before, I like it on green, so I keep it on green. And on the bottom, these are called height adjustments, so you can actually adjust the height of the mouse when it's on the desk, because this is it's a gaming mouse. So depending on how precise you want your mouse, you could change the height of this. I usually just keep it as it is. I don't really mess with it. And then there's another option that you have. And then after that, you can change the color of the emblem itself also. So as I said before, the back of the emblem is a green. I can change it into a different color if I wanted to, but as I just keep it at green, it actually kind of adds a kind of nice aesthetics to it. So let's move the camera and show you what I mean. So as you can see, it's a nice aesthetic color. Everything is green there. So I have a green mouse, green keyboard, and then I have my green PC right there. So it adds a little bit of aesthetics to that. So as you can see, it is a green keyboard with a green mouse, and then I have my RGB fan over my PC that is green as well. So it kind of adds a really cool kind of distinctive feature, especially at night when the lights are out. It actually adds a little bit of cool ambient light to it. So and that is that for in terms of just my keyboard and my monitor. Now for speaker wise, this monitor does not have speakers. So typically when you're buying a monitor, usually most people, I'd say probably a few people, or I wouldn't say a few people, but actually I'd say majority of people who buy speaker now that is everything when it comes to my keyboard and my monitor. Now that is everything when it comes to my keyboard, my mouse, and my monitor. Now when it comes to speakers, now when most people are buying monitors, which I would say probably 90% of most people who do, including myself, don't realize that these do not come with speakers built in. You can get some with speakers built in, but normally 9 times out of 10 when you're going to buy a monitor, it's not going to have it included. So since my AirPod is not, the monitor is not AirPlay compatible. Since the monitor is not AirPlay compatible, I had to find a pair of speakers that were decently sounding. Now that is everything for my keyboard, my mouse, and my monitor. Now when it comes to sound, when you're buying a monitor, I'd say probably 90% of the time you're not going to realize that these do not come with built-in speakers. Now, there are some that do come with built-in speakers, but usually you tend to have to kind of look around, and then, usually you can just simply just take a pair of speakers, plug them into the back of the headphone jacks, and that usually tends to work much more effective than you trying to find one with speakers built in, because then now you have to turn the volume up on the monitor, and usually I wouldn't say they're not adequate enough, but at least with separate speakers, you have a better option of deciding what's going to sound good versus what's not going to sound good. So even though I have a HomePod, it's still not compatible with the monitor because the monitor doesn't have AirPlay capabilities. I don't think there's actually ever going to be a monitor that allows it to do that. So I bought my pair of Bose speakers, and these are the Bose Companion 2 speakers that I have, and I have a link in the description for these down below. These are about $99, and I have these plugged actually into the back of my sound card on my PC. But the cool thing is it has a separate volume knob on the left-hand side. I'm sorry, the right-hand side. So the right-hand side of the speakers have all the plugins that you'll need, obviously, for plugging in from the left speaker into the right, and then your auxiliary if you want to plug in, like, say, an extra headset or a microphone, as well as a power for these. So these are not USB powered speakers. These are actually powered by an AC power outlet. So you would need to plug these in to an AC power plug-in, depending on how you have your setup. So that is what I bought for these, and they sound decent. They sound good. I still have my HomePod though. I don't plan on getting rid of that because when I'm playing iTunes is AirPod capable. When I'm playing iTunes you're able to stream or basically Bluetooth that to the HomePod, which is actually kind of cool. So that actually works well for me in that aspect. So when I don't feel like wanting to play with the Bose speakers and I wanted to do and that's it for the Bose speakers. Now with the HomePod, now I still have the ability to play music from iTunes from my computer, because again, with iTunes you do have the ability to AirPlay to AirPlay capable devices, and since I have my HomePod, I can play iTunes through that. It'll definitely pick that up. I'm not exactly sure how it does that. I don't really want to kind of go into why I think it works like that. It's just that it is capable of doing that from this. I'm assuming it's probably because it's all on the same Wi-Fi network. So I'm capable of just Wi-Fiing this to the HomePod. So basically what I'm saying is that HomePods are not Bluetooth. So if they were, then I would not be able to use the HomePod because my PC, the motherboard, does not have a Bluetooth or a Wi-Fi card in it. Everything is jacked in physically, so it's just using the router as the connection between it and the PC, and since it's connected to that, I can AirPlay from my iTunes to that. So if I don't feel like I want to use my Bose speakers and I want to use my HomePod, then I can do that if I wanted to do that. So in terms of that, that is what I have there. Now in terms of storage wise, it's kind of I wouldn't say scattered around. Right now, right now I have an 8 terabyte, which is this right here, the Seagate 8 terabyte desktop hard drive, and then I have behind my iPad, I have a 4 terabyte as well, and then I also have a 500 gigabyte solid state Samsung T500, which I kind of use as like a separate drive for kind of other videos that I want to keep that I don't want to put on my hard drive right here. Now this is my specific Adobe drive. Now when I'm doing all my video editing and all of that, everything I have is specifically on this when it comes to that. And then on my 4 terabyte, that's mostly my iTunes drive. So everything that I use for iTunes, whether I'm buying movies or songs, specifically goes on that drive. And then in my PC, I have a separate 2 terabyte drive, and then I have my solid state in there, which is my main OS for that. So we're going to kind of go into just also now what I have in my PC in terms of just what you can see. I really don't want to take it apart and do all that because I have to unplug and do all that. So we're going to kind of briefly show you what I have in my PC, and then I'll have a list in the descriptions for the parts for what I built on my PC, as well as a link in the description for if you're thinking about wanting to build build a PC, or if you entertain the thought about it, you'll have a list. At least you can kind of go to the website and you can build your own and kind of see how much it would cost you for that versus what it's going to cost you for building or buying your own PC. This is my current PC setup. Now this is an AMD build. This is a Fantex Eclipse case. Now this came with integrated fan, small fan in the back, so it kind of exhausts all the air out that way. And in the front, it does have space for 2 more 140mm fans, as well as on the top you can add another fan. So my current configuration in terms of how I have it built is I have a 140mm fan up in the top. That's what the little grill is up there. And in the front here, there is a 140mm fan as well. I'm actually going to upgrade this and add another fan in there. And then the case itself comes with a 120mm fan. So it's a little smaller fan, but it's mostly an exhaust fan. So all the air gets kind of siphoned out that way. Not in, but out. And the CPU itself, it's an AMD build. So when you're buying a CPU, typically, at least from my experience, from what I've seen, they will usually come with a stock fan. Now, from what I've read, the stock fans aren't too terribly bad. They do a good job of cooling, but I wanted to do something different. I didn't really want to stick with the stock fan, so I went with what is known as a CPU cooler fan. So this is an Rgb Cooling Fan from Coolmaster. This is called the Hyper 212 Black Edition. So if you're not familiar with that, I'll have a link in the description for the video that I did on that. The reason why I bought this is because it does a better job of cooling than the stock fan, and it's RGB, as you can see. So I won't go into too much of a description of it, but I can change this into any color I want. As I said before, I love green, so it kind of flashes green, and especially at night, it tends to actually look pretty cool. It's a little bright, so you can't really tune down the brightness on it, but usually you'll get by with it being, it actually looks kind of cool anyway, because it kind of looks, if you're looking at it from the outdoors, kind of like Christmas lights that are flashing on and off. So I have the AMD CPU and this all on an AMD motherboard. This is a ROG Strix 450B gaming motherboard. This supports up to 64 gigs of RAM. So currently I have 32 gigs in there, so I'm going to lower my camera. Actually, I'm going to take the camera off and I'm going to show you what I mean. So as you can see from the little, when the light flashes, you'll see like 4 little silhouettes. Those are my RAM sticks. I'm running 32 gigs of RAM on this because, as I said previously, when you are doing Adobe, it is a RAM-hungry program. Typically, you can get away with 16 gigs of RAM, but since RAM is pretty inexpensive when it comes to building a PC, I decided to just go 32. I didn't need to go 64 and go all out because, you know, you don't really need 64 gigs of RAM to really just run Adobe and, you know, 4K editing. At least from my point of view, I don't need that much. So in terms of what I did there, that is what I have for that. And then my graphics card, as you can see from here, that is an MSI. This is a 2070 RTX. Now, originally, I was going to be using I believe it was a 980X gaming card from MSI that my brother was going to give me, but I accidentally dropped this case and damaged that graphics card. So unfortunately, I didn't have one that I could just easily buy. So my brother decided to buy me a new graphics card, which is pretty cool. Wasn't expecting him to do that. And so instead of him just buying me like a 1080 or 1660, he decided to do me a 2070 RTX graphics card. This is an 8 gig graphics card, dedicated graphics card, which is actually kind of cool. So that's what I'm running in that. And then I'm also running, as like I said before, under the bottom here, I'm running a 1 terabyte solid state for the main OS for my Windows. And then I also have 2 terabyte external in there as well. For the fans, like I said, I have a fan there. And then there's a fan. I don't know if you'll be able to see it from the bottom, but you might be able to. There's a fan right where my hand is at. You might be able to barely see it. But there's a fan up there. It's a 144mm fan, just as like this one is there. And then I have on the back there is a, you might not be able to see it, but it is there. It's a 120mm fan, and that's pretty much the gist of what I'm running in here. It's pretty cool. The power unit that I'm running is on the bottom. It is a Segotep. You probably won't be able to see the little lights, but as I'm pointing down there, that is my Segotep light or power unit that I'm pushing this with. It's a modular, which means it comes with all the cords that I need for plugging in all the external devices or other devices that I want to plug into the CPU itself, the motherboard itself. So it's actually pretty cool. So and that is a complete tour of my new desk setup. Now, originally, when I had built the PC, I was really only going to use it for video editing and the normal stuff that I normally would have done even when I had my iMac. But with my PC, now I'm able to do it at a much more efficient rate. And when it came to gaming, just strictly use my Xbox as my gaming rig when I wanted to play Xbox. But now that I have this, I'm actually thinking about doing a little bit of Twitch streaming. Now, I have been playing a lot of Xbox, or should I say a lot of games on my PC that I have on my Xbox. So obviously, I've been doing a lot of Call of Duty on my PC. And with this type of a monitor, it really looks really awesome doing it. So I'm actually thinking about kind of going into Twitch streaming. I'm not really sure yet, but stay tuned for that, because who knows, if I do, I will probably end up just uploading those onto my YouTube channel. I'm not really sure yet. So, I mean, what do you guys think? You think that I should start doing a little bit of Twitch streaming, or, just kind of uploading some Twitch streams, just, you can see how I play Xbox, or, just should I do Twitch streaming, and I'll have a link in the description later on my Twitch channel. What do you guys think about that? I'm not really sure yet. I'm still learning a little bit about streaming on Twitch, although I have been on Twitch for quite a while. I've never really streamed on it. I've done a few on Xbox, but it really just uploads to Xbox Live. It's never really on the Twitch itself. So I'm not really sure yet, but what do you guys think? Let me know in the descriptions below. But again, I want to thank everybody for watching my channel. And again, my name is Black Appeal, the Apple Guy, and have a great week.